November 1930. It was very cold in the Nunavut area of northern Canada. And because of the snowstorm all around, there was a thick layer of snow on the ground. Because of the thick fog, there was so much fog in the sky that it was difficult to see a few meters ahead. In this storm, a fur trapper and hunter Joe LaBelle was walking alone in the snow in the middle of the dense forest. Although Joe LaBelle had spent many years in this kind of weather, but that day the cold was so much that his feet were frozen to the knees at every step. And he had to push himself hard in every step. He was wearing animal-made fur clothes, but the cold was so much that it was shivering to the bones. There was no human being far away and only cold air and silence spread. In such a situation, there was also a fear of wild bears which if suddenly appeared, then Joe LaBelle's life could have gone. That's why he had to reach such a shelter as soon as possible where he could be safe from the cold and there was no threat of wild animals. On top of that, he was walking without eating for a long time, so he was very hungry and his body was exhausted. Then he remembered a small village near the Anjikuni lake in the middle of this jungle, where the people of the Inuit tribe lived. He had stayed in that village many times before and the people there were very hospitable. He took great care of his guests. If a hunter arrived late at night, he would feed him a hot meal, provide a place to sit by the fire, and arrange for him to stay overnight. But the population of that village was not much, and only 25 to 30 people lived there, who lived in some huts made of stones and tents made of animal skins. The tribe traces its roots to the ancient Eskimo tribes of the Arctic, and they primarily engaged in hunting and fishing. Lost in the thoughts of food and shelter, Joe LaBelle kept walking fast towards the forest and after a long walk he started seeing the shapes of tents from a distance. He thought that he goes to the village, he will meet the people there and the arrangement of his accommodation will be easy. But as he got very close to the village, he started feeling a little strange. When he used to come to this village many times, he used to meet people in the village even in such a big storm. Smoke could be seen rising from the village, and some people could be seen keeping warm by lighting bonfires nearby. But today, he saw nothing of the sort. There was no barking of sled dogs, no sound of children. There was only the rustling of the wind and an eerie silence. Joe thought that everyone might be hiding in their tents because of the intense cold and storm, so he entered the village. And first, he headed for a house where the family knew him well. He had stayed with this same family when he first came to the village. Their hut-like home had no door, only a thick leather curtain. Joe called out, but there was no response from inside. When there was no response to his call the next time, he himself removed the curtain and went inside. There was darkness in the hut, but in the light coming from outside, he could see the inside of the house. There was no human inside, but the house was lying like that. There was a big pot on the extinguished stove, which had a fish stew in it, which was cold and started freezing from the top. The work of sewing the seal skin on a small table was incomplete, the thread was still on the needle, and half the stitching was done. It seemed as if the seamstress had gone somewhere without completing the work. Along with this, the rifles used on the walls of the house were hanging in the same way. Seeing all this, Joe was surprised. He came out and he searched several huts one after the other. But in every hut, the stuff was lying as it is. Cooking utensils, incomplete work, children's small toys, everything was lying the same. But no matter where a person's work was, there was no sign of anyone outside. The storm outside was already fierce. But seeing the scene there, a new storm began to rise inside Joe LaBelle. At this time it was seen that meat was hanging over the bonfire in the middle of the village. But the fire was extinguished and snow was set on the wood. The surprising thing was that a piece of meat was not even cut. Meaning that people had gone somewhere just like that. Joe LaBelle did not understand where all the people of the village had disappeared. He was most surprised to see that all the winter clothes of the villagers were kept in the tents as it was. Guns, knives, all weapons were also kept as it was. The food stock was full, that is, they had so much food that could last for months. Still, where and why did those people go? This question was bothering him from the inside. He repeatedly called out, but only his voice echoed in the air and then a deep silence spread. Out of fear, he ran away from there and reached the rocky shore of the lake. All the boats were present on the shore, which was clear that the villagers had not gone anywhere by water. While climbing back towards the mountain, his foot hit something hard under the ice and he fell on his face. Brushing away the snow with his hands, he discovered a frozen dog's body. In panic, he dug more with his hands and uncovered several other dogs. All the sled dogs were tied with ropes, frozen solid in the snow. They had been left behind to die, abandoned to the mercy of the blizzard. This terrified Joe the most. Inuit people never abandon their loyal dogs. These dogs were their most trusted companions for hunting and travel. A horrifying thought came to his mind: if the dogs were left like this, perhaps the villagers' bodies were also buried somewhere under this snow. The idea made his soul tremble with fear. His entire body shook. He had come here hoping for warmth, food, and friendly faces. But now even the thought of staying in those empty huts felt deadly. The silence around him now seemed life-threatening. He decided he would not stay here even for a single moment longer. A telegraph office was a few miles away. He resolved to go there immediately. He would inform the police about this mysterious mass disappearance. Gathering his last bit of courage, he started walking in that cursed night. Joe LaBelle walked for a long time in the freezing night, his mind filled with horror. Finally, he reached the nearest telegraph office and told the entire story in detail. The operator sent the urgent message to the authorities. The next morning, as the first rays of sun hit the snow-covered land, Joe returned to the village along with several Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers. The police immediately started examining the snow around the village carefully. Only Joe's footprints from the previous night were visible between the huts and tents. There were no other footprints inside or outside the village. If the entire village had walked away, there should have been hundreds of tracks. But the snow was completely undisturbed except for Joe's marks. The police first suspected an attack by another tribe or group. But there were no signs of any fight, no broken items, no torn tents, no scattered belongings, no blood anywhere. No marks of struggle or violence were found in the entire village. Even animal attacks were ruled out, no claw marks, no blood on the dogs or elsewhere. All rifles, knives, and weapons were still hanging or kept exactly where they belonged. After this, the police reached the shore of the lake where the villagers used to do their daily fishing work. Anjikuni Lake was completely frozen. The police suspected that some villagers had been killed and thrown in this lake. But when they carefully looked at the ice sheet, there was no crack anywhere. If so many people or their bodies were thrown in the lake, then there would have been deep marks on the ice or the place would have melted and broken, but everything seemed normal there. About 100 feet away from the village, another very strange and mysterious thing was found. There was a dug grave, but it was completely empty. Around the grave, there was a circle of small stones, just like the Inuit tribe used to make around their graves, so that the spirits remained calm. The police and Joe LaBelle were even more surprised that for whom this grave must have been dug and why it is lying empty. The police did not find any clue even after checking everything in the village. Now, along with Joe LaBelle, the police were also worried about where all the villagers went from here. After this, the police started the investigation of the case. For this, they started interrogating the people passing by the Anjikuni Lake. During this time, the police met the local hunters Armin Laurent and his two sons. During the interrogation, they told the police something that shocked everyone. In the past, they saw some strange lights in the sky around Anjikuni Lake, which were coming from a weird shining object. The object was moving through the sky and changing its shape again and again. It sometimes looked like a cylinder, and as soon as it blinked, it would transform into a pointed shape like a bullet. The direction in which they saw this shining thing, that direction went to the Anjikuni Lake. The situation reached its limit when the inspectors themselves saw mysterious shining lights in the sky over Anjikuni Lake. By the way, it is not a big deal to see lights in the sky there, as the northern lights, known as Aurora Borealis, are a common and beautiful natural phenomenon in that area. But what the officers saw was far from that natural phenomenon. The light on the horizon was of blue color and was pulsing in a rhythm. The police investigated for a long time but could not understand anything about the lights, and neither could they find any other solid clue. The police could not understand the reality of the disappearance of the villagers. The case was going on, but the more they investigated, the more complicated the matter became. Meanwhile, the news of the disappearance of Anjikuni village also reached the reporters. A reporter from Manitoba, Emmett E. Kelleher, published an article in a newspaper on November 29, 1930, in which the story of Joe LaBelle was told. After that, this small village was suddenly known all over the world. Many articles were published about this village and the police started receiving inquiries related to this case. The pressure on the police was increasing, but even after investigating this matter for a long time, when no clue was found, this case was finally closed forever in 1931. According to the police investigation, they did not find any concrete evidence of the disappearance of the villagers. Along with this, the police later declared the story of reporter Emmett E. Kelleher and fur trapper Joe LaBelle as a fabricated story. But the world was never satisfied with this. People thought that the police wanted to hide a big truth from the world. In this way, with time, many theories about this case began to take birth. People living in other nearby villages and hunters in this area used to tell a very scary reason behind the disappearance of Anjikuni village. According to them, some bad souls roam in this desolate and cold area. In the old Inuit folklore, the souls of the town guards are mentioned. It is believed that an ancient spirit lives in the area around Anjikuni Lake and makes people disappear without a trace. Some hunters passing by Anjikuni Lake also reported that they felt as if some invisible force was following them. Some elders believed that this could be some ancient curse. They said Anjikuni Lake itself is a dangerous place, punishing those who break its rules. Another theory pointed suspicion at Joe LaBelle himself. Some claimed he killed the entire village, threw the bodies into the lake, waited for the ice to freeze over them, and then reported the disappearance to seem innocent. Suspicion grew because, according to records, he had not taken a hunting license before 1930. But this theory was also proved hollow because how could a single man kill the whole village without any struggle, without blood and without any voice? If he had really killed, he would have disappeared quietly instead of calling the police. But despite this theory remained alive because people felt that he knew a secret that he never told. A theory of mass migration or seasonal relocation has also been linked to this incident. Inuit people have been changing their place according to the availability of hunting and fish for centuries. That's why some people believe that this village of Anjikuni was a temporary camp from which they left and went somewhere else. But if this was the case, they would have been seen in some other area. Apart from this, why would they leave their rifles, kayaks and sled dogs behind? The situation was such that people left everything behind and suddenly disappeared into thin air. That's why this theory doesn't seem so powerful. There is also a flaw in this theory that if this was the case, then in the summer, after melting the snow, the dead would definitely be found. Apart from this, the Inuit people never take the risk of going out in such cold without their winter clothes, weapons and dogs. Apart from this, a theory connects this event to some other dimensional portal. According to this, due to the magnetic force of the North Pole, the villagers must have gone to some other dimension. This seems like a science fiction story, and with time, many such theories have come to light. But the theory that caught people's attention the most is the theory of alien abduction. It is said that creatures from another planet had kidnapped the whole village at the same time. At that time, many hunters had seen strange flying objects on the lake, from which flickering lights were coming out and which suddenly disappeared in the sky at high speed. Some people said they even heard unknown signals on radio stations, which did not correspond to any known human technology. Pulsing lights were claimed to be seen around the area, which deepened the suspicion. People believe that the same night, some alien spacecraft landed in the area and the aliens without any struggle picked up the entire village together. This was the reason that the houses were empty, the food was cooking, but not a single man was present. This alien theory got wind when writer Frank Edwards mentioned this incident in his book Stranger Than Science in 1959 and connected it directly to UFO activity. After this, in the book published in 1984, The World's Greatest UFO Mysteries, the story of Anjikuni village was presented by connecting it to aliens. Gradually, many fictional novels were written on this mystery. Some people believe in the truth in the story of aliens, and some people believe it to be an unsolved mystery even after 100 years. However, many experts tell this whole story differently. They say that the reporter Emmett E. Kelleher, who wrote a newspaper article on this incident in 1930, used to exaggerate things and present them in a sensational way and was also known to write fictional stories. Some researchers even believe that the story of the Anjikuni village is not true, that there was not even a village there, and the whole story might be the result of exaggeration and rumor. If you like this story of Anjikuni village disappearance, then you should definitely know the story of Kuldhara village. This village of Rajasthan became completely empty in one night and is deserted even after 200 years. It is said that there is a ghost dwelling there, and that is why Kuldhara is counted as one of the scariest places in India. You can see this whole story in our previous videos, whose link you will find in the description of this video.